Apparently, the internet consists solely of reposts or something because questions like this pop up everywhere all the time. But anyways, one day I was just scrolling through Reddit like any other degenerate, and for some reason, this question triggered one of my brain cells to wake up my only other brain cell because I'm not gonna lie, I like seeing reposts. Anyways, having twice my usual computational power, I came up with a result I believe to be novel to the question. But of course, since this is the internet, I'll have to start with a repost. Apparently, some people believe a straw has two holes, one at the top and one at the bottom, or something of a similar nature. However, present this result to any mathematician and they'll probably ask for the details of your dealer because that result is clearly nonsense conjured up by someone not in the right state of mind. Because topologically speaking, a straw is a tall donut and donuts have one hole. And while this is mathematically correct by all means, this result ignores the context surrounding the question. That is, the question isn't posed in a mathematical situation but a social situation. I'm going to start with the claim that holes in a typical social setting refers to an absence of material where material usually is. For example, most people would recognize that these are three basketballs, except the middle contains one hole and the rightmost contains two holes. Except, topologically speaking, a hollow sphere kind of sort of has -1 holes. So to put it simply, a topologist asking how many holes does this basketball have is fundamentally a different question than a random person on Tumblr asking how many holes does this basketball have, because these questions are presented in a different context with different levels of assumed knowledge. Or in other words, in a socially internet-y context, the question can be interpreted as how many additional holes are in insert shape, whereas in a topological context, the question is how many holes separate insert shape from being a complete solid. So a straw has 0 additional holes. But this type of logic doesn't satisfy internet nerds out there because it clearly dodges the question. So let's continue with the same level of pedantry used in the topological case. Things are mostly empty space. That is, even though solids are composed of atoms, these atoms aren't touching in a mathematical sense. So you could argue that a straw isn't a continuous shape and instead is a loose collection of field excitations or something, and therefore the question doesn't even make sense. But of course, given the context the question is asked in, you wouldn't even consider this line of thinking because it's stupid. And just for fun, since this is in a social context, let's say a hole is something you can pass another solid through. Like how we can fit things through the hole of a torus or bury things in a hole in the ground. Then a straw would have one obvious hole. But if we attempt to pass a quantum-sized object through the solid part of the straw, there is a non-zero chance that the object will pass through anyways due to quantum shenanigans. So you could say that the straw actually contains 1.000 bunch of 0001 holes. But we can go further. Since holes can be arbitrarily sized, we can come up with an infinite amount of possible hole sizes. Kind of like how there are infinitely many numbers between 0 and 1. And each of these potential holes has a very small but non-zero chance to allow a quantum-sized object to pass through. And a small number added infinitely many times results in an infinitely large number. So we can say that the straw, under my just for fun definition of a hole, has infinitely many holes if we don't think too closely about it. And having said all of this, we still have to remember that this is the internet. Nobody agrees on anything. Since nobody can agree, there must be some collective misunderstanding of what a straw really is. Or in other words, there is a hole in our understanding of a straw. Since things are defined as our collective understanding of said things, a hole in our understanding of a straw means there is a fundamental hole in a straw. In simple terms, a hole in idea means there is a hole in idea, meaning a straw has n+1 holes, one fundamental hole and n number of actual holes. Paradoxically, this means that if we were ever to figure out this value n, or how many holes a straw actually has, it would only have n holes and not n+1 holes, because the hole in our understanding would have been filled. Which poses the question, how can the same thing be defined by two different definitions? This would mean that n would have to be infinitely large, and goddammit, I don't have time for this crap.